Hi, everyone. If we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm Missy, and I'm so glad you're joining us today, no matter where you're tuning in from. We're doing something a little different in our campuses throughout January, but here online, we've got something really special prepared for you today. One of our favorite messages from last year. I truly believe it will encourage and challenge you, just like it did for me when I heard it. So, I'd love to invite you to lean in, open your heart, and let this word speak to you. God bless, and I hope you enjoy today's message. Have a fantastic week ahead.
This whole Why series has been incredible, and I know it's Pastor Luke's heart is that we would discover not just the what, but go beyond the what into the why. And everything we've talked about so far, why the Bible, why church, why worship, why forgive, has a common thread, and that common thread today we're going to discover has a name, and his name is Jesus. We're going to talk about why Jesus today. I've been walking with Jesus for 30 years. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over on the tail end of a bit of a cough this week. So if I have a cough, I'll just have a drink and we'll just get on with it. But as I was studying for this message this week, why Jesus, I've been walking with him for 30 years, and I was reminded again of how vast and how majestic he is. That after 30 years, I'm only beginning to scratch the surface of discovering his nature and his character and who he is. When you truly discover Jesus for yourself, that he really does change everything. He's more magnificent than you could ever imagine. He's an anchor to my soul and a hope for my heart. He is powerful. He is all-knowing. He is omnipresent. He is the creator of the universe, but he is also personal and interested in my life and your life. And he knows that we are designed not to live life outside of a relationship with him. And my prayer today is that every one of us, as I said, would catch a greater glimpse of the person of Jesus. And I don't know about you, but I have had so often conversations where I am sharing my faith, or I am talking to a friend or a family member or a co-worker, hopefully before I worked in church, and telling them about the person of Jesus. Although there are a few church staff who could do with a fresh revelation of Jesus, I am one of them, because there is so much depth and so much, sorry guys. But the conversation has a response, and it's something like this: I get God, but really, is Jesus the answer to all humanity? Don't all religions, don't all roads lead to God? Anyone ever heard that statement before? That, okay, God I get, but just Jesus, guys, surely he's not the Son of God. Surely he's just a good man or a good prophet. Or I watched my own father wrestle with this for decades. When I was growing up, my father was a lay preacher in a Brethren church. I would watch him preach and articulate. He was a very, very intelligent man, and he had the ability to craft words and to put together messages that would speak of theology and concepts. But then I would watch his life during the week, and he would still struggle and outwalk and journey and wrestle with the same stuff year in, year out, decade in, decade out, and not get any freedom. And I would watch him go through this journey. And then I left home to go to Bible college. So I'm in Bible college, and I think after I'd finished Bible college, my father had made some changes and he'd moved overseas, and I hadn't talked to him for a little while, and we had a conversation, and he said, Scott, I've found the answer. I've become a Buddhist. Because Buddhism gives me a pathway to get to the end that I want. And then he would spend the next few years to try and convince me why that religion or that mindset was right. And then a few years later, he got in business with another man, and he said, I don't think Buddhism is the right way. I've converted to Islam now, because Islam gives me the ability that if I don't get it right this life, then I get another chance the next life, and I'll just take as many chances as I need, and eventually I'll end up getting it right. And we would have these debates, and back then I probably enjoyed a debate a little too much, and it was more about the debate than it was about anything else. And the end of his life, my father, I don't know what happened in the last moments, but the last thing that we talked about, he would talk about, well, I'm now a universalist, and I believe that all roads lead to God, and it doesn't matter what you believe in, as long as you've got a good heart and a pure heart and you want to connect with God, then all roads would lead to God. And it led me to understand that religion is really not a search for God, but religion is a search for ourselves. That we can tend to find religions or constructs or ideas or philosophies that will help me understand me better. But when I get a revelation of what Jesus says in John chapter 14, that it doesn't matter what my end goal is, Jesus is the answer and Jesus is the pathway to get me connected to the God who created me. John chapter 14 verse 5 says this, Jesus was talking to his disciples saying, I'm going to go and prepare a place for you and then you're going to follow me, and do you know what's happening? And then this is where we cut in verse 5. Thomas said to him in verse 5 of chapter 14, no, we don't, Lord. We have no idea where you are going, so can you show us the way? That's the cry of the human heart. Would someone show me the way to have a great life? Would someone show me the way to have a great marriage? Would someone show me the way to have a healthy internal world? Would someone show us the way? Jesus told him, listen, these are the words we're going to anchor our whole time together today on. Jesus told him, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. If you had really known me, then you would know my Father. From now on, you do know him, my Father, because you have seen him in me. Do you know that you can find a religion for you to achieve your ultimate pathway because it gives you steps to take for you or I to achieve what we want to achieve. If you want enlightenment, there's a pathway for enlightenment. If you want pleasure, there's a pathway for pleasure. If you want peace and connection with God and assuredness for the afterlife, then if religion will tell you if you do these things, there's a pathway for you to get to peace in the afterlife. But Jesus said, it's not about your pathway. I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the light. The truth is, religions were created by humans to give us what we need to do to get God's attention. But here's what I've observed over decades of ministry. Really, no one is searching for God's attention. They're searching for life. They know their life is missing something. They know they're just existing, that something is wrong or something is broken, that there's a hole and a hollowness in their soul, that they're trying to find the life that seems to be eluding them. And the reason religion is an answer is someone has told them the only way you can find a truly fulfilling life is if you earn the acceptance of God. And therefore, you have to go through the process of taking on religion, doing more stuff, behaving a certain way, acting a certain way, in the hope that one day, just maybe, God will finally approve of you and give you life. The picture is God standing at the top of a mountain and us scurrying up the side of a mountain, trying to get to this elusive God, while this elusive God sits at the top of a mountain, waiting to see who is worthy of his presence. And then along the way up that mountain, something happens and we fail and we're filled with guilt and we're filled with shame. So we regroup and we climb again, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find life at some point. That basically describes every religion. And in my opinion, any God who forces me to earn his love is not worthy of my worship. Any God who forces me to earn his love is not worthy of my worship. Why Jesus? Because Jesus doesn't qualify as a religion. Because if religion is a framework for us to do something to get enlightenment and peace or heaven, Jesus flips that upside down. And Jesus didn't come to show us what we need to do to get to God. He came to show us what God has done to chase us down. Why Jesus? Because Jesus speaks of a God who is in pursuit of you, who will bridge the gap between my brokenness and his holiness. I've had so many people say, Jesus, really? And here's what I've learned. that when they use the name God, they're talking about, what do I need to do to get to him? When they have a revelation of Jesus, they're talking about, what has God done to do to search for us? Why Jesus? Because he is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life. Back to the words of Jesus, John 14, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. If you'd really known me, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you do know him because you have seen him. Why would Jesus cut out all the other options and say, I'm exclusive? I actually don't think he's saying that. I think what Jesus is actually saying is, I am the only God who is coming for you. I am the only one who is going to meet you where you are at. Why would I spend my entire life to earn the love from a God who puts it all on me and my actions, when Jesus is the manifestation of the verse, God is love? Everything God does is out of an intention of love. Then it makes sense, if everything God does is out of an intention of love, it makes sense that if I'm the broken one, if I'm the hurting one, if I'm the one with a deficit, then the perfect God doesn't ask me in my brokenness to measure up to him, but he comes and meets me where I'm at and walks with me to the place that he has for me. That he comes and finds me rather than me having to prove myself to him. Why did Jesus have to step into the human story? Because it is not above the one true God to step into humanity's mess, to become one of us, to show us the way back to him again. When Jesus is saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he's actually saying, I'm the perfect fit for your soul. That thing in your soul that you're trying to go after and use religion as the answer, that peace, that hope, that sense of purpose, that thing in your soul, Jesus is saying, I am the perfect fit for all of that. Have you ever bought a pair of shoes that don't quite fit? No one. Awesome. Come on, anyone ever bought a pair of shoes that don't quite fit? And take cheers. I remember my first trip to America. We went to a Nike outlet store. I don't know if you've ever been to America or not, but in America, when they say there is a sale on, it's not a New Zealand sale, where you walk into a New Zealand sale and you get like $5 off, or buy 47, get the 49th free, like that type. It's not that type of sale. If they say 95% off, they genuinely mean 95% off. So I remember first trip to America, all I wanted to do was go to the Nike outlet store. And we walked to the Nike outlet store, and I had in my mind the perfect pair of Nikes I wanted to buy. I walk in, and on the back wall, there is this shelf that had all of these Nikes that were 95% off. And my eyes, the minute I looked at that shelf, noticed the perfect pair of Nikes that I'd been dreaming about and thinking about. I'm like, these are me. Now, I've got size 9 feet. Shut up. I know they're little. Don't look at them. My eyes are up here, okay? Not down there. My eyes are up here. I walk in, and on the back wall, there's shelves of shoes, and there's they had like, it was like the Holy Ghost had spoken. There was like angels, light shining on the shoes. I get there, they're size 10. I'm like, I could wear big socks. I know I'm 23, but my feet might grow. I can walk like this. So I put them on. I walked around the store, and they felt a little awkward, a little clumsy, looked fantastic, promised to do a whole lot, but felt not right. I'm like, no, I can do this. We're good. Amanda will love me walking like this when we go out for date night. It's going to be awesome. Bought them because they were $15 down from like $167. Never wore them once. Found a friend of mine that had size 10 feet and gifted it to them. Said, when I bought these, I thought of you, mate. I bought these just for you. It's been my best mate ever since, thinking I was so generous. Do you know the way those Nikes felt on my feet is like religion? Looks good, promises a whole lot, just doesn't feel right. Just doesn't fit. For us to want this life that has peace and purpose and a sense of value, that's not wrong, but don't look to religion because it doesn't quite fit. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Why Jesus? Here's the big idea for today. Why Jesus? Because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life that my soul is searching for. That's why Jesus. So Jesus said, I am the way. When Jesus says, I am the way, he is saying that you and I are designed for love, by love, for progress. That there is something hardwired in the human heart to hope for a better tomorrow, to hope that I haven't just plateaued and at 48 years old, am I 48? I turned 48 in October, 49, how old am I? This has been a bad flu this week, team. How old am I? 48. At 48 years old, I haven't peaked. Are you sure I'm 48? Dude, I'm old. Don't you laugh, Graham May. 48's heading your way. At 48, I haven't peaked. Listen, if you're 50, you haven't peaked. If you're 55, you haven't peaked. If you're 60, you haven't peaked. I love Robin and Jill Rangeley, who are full of fire and investing into the next generation and pouring into marriages and saying, God, we're not done. Use us. Because there's something hardwired in the human heart to realize that if there is blood in my veins and air in my lungs, there's a better tomorrow. I can hope for something better. You are hardwired for hope. But hope doesn't work in reverse. Hope in my past is regret. But Jesus said, I am the way into the future that I have for you. There's something amazing about hope. And every soul is designed to live with hope. And no matter how much you've already achieved, no matter how much has already happened, you can have hope for a bigger tomorrow. In fact, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, then God said, let us make man in our own image. So in the middle of the creation story, while God is creating the earth, after he'd spoken stuff, after he dreamed something and created it, he said, let us make man in our own image. Do you know that hardwired on the inside of you is an ability to create a life that you haven't even seen yet? That God has dreams and hopes for you in the future. And that's why every soul, no matter what the reality is, has hope for a better tomorrow, because you are made in the image of God. But the thing that connects you between your today and your God future is the person of Jesus and the way to get there. It's not on you just to figure it out. Jesus says, I am the way, and with me, there will always be a future and a hope. Why Jesus? Because religion won't give you that. But the person of Jesus wants to meet you where you're at, meet me where I'm at, and take me into the future God has for me. When we lived in America, there was this young guy by the name of Mike Perkins, and Mike was a professional baseball player. He played for the Red Sox, Boston Red Sox. And one off-season, his parents lived in Virginia Beach. One off-season, he came to Virginia Beach. He sat in one of our services and he got saved. And I think it was about a week before he went back on to his on-season. I don't know if you know much about baseball, but it's brutal. Like, their schedule is brutal. In the NBA, in basketball, they play like once a week. In baseball, they play every 2 days. So they have like 90 games in 180 days. They're just in a stadium playing a game, driving to the next stadium playing a game. It is just relentless, and the culture is anything but God edifying. So Mike comes back from his first season after becoming a Christ follower, and he says, Scott, it all fell apart. Like I'm around all these boys and their values are different, and it just all fell apart. So here's what I'm going to do. This whole off season, I'm going to put a chair in your office, and Monday through Friday, I'm just going to sit in the corner and read my Bible and listen to messages and read books and see if I can get enough of Jesus in me to carry me through the on season. I'm like, okay, dude, go for it. And he put a chair in my office, and for 3 months, he'd be there before I turned up, and he'd stay after I'd go home. There'd be a knock on the door. He's like, I've just got a question about some stuff that I read today. I'm like, dude, we're in the office together for 8 hours. And he'd come to my house, so we'd have dinner, and we'd talk about it, and about halfway through the next season, he calls me, and he's like, it's happened again. I don't know if I can live this life and stay connected to Jesus, because I don't know whether this is what God has for me. I just always dreamed about being a baseballer, so I ran after it, but now I think God's got something else for me. Long story short, Mike gave up baseball. He stayed in Virginia Beach. He met a beautiful girl. They got married. They've started a chain of restaurants. And Mike is now living out his God purpose. He was involved in our church. He's still super involved in the church. And I'm not saying that God's asking you to give something up. I'm saying that if you're doing something that is not aligned with what God has for you, the best thing you can do is discover the way, get in the way, and walk towards the future. Do you know that in Jesus' day, they used to call his disciples followers of the way? Not Christians. Followers of the way of Christ. When Jesus sees you, when Jesus sees me, he sees us not just in our now, but he sees our future, and he knows the way to get from our now to then. So why Jesus? Because Jesus is the way my soul is searching for. Secondly, Jesus is the truth. You and I were designed for meaning. We were created to live a life that has meaning and purpose. And I know that it's Pastor Luke and Missy's heart that every time a Sunday rolls around, every time we come together for an event like Together Forever, register, it's going to be awesome. Every time we get together for a Together Forever, that every message that comes off this stage is not just words that tickle our ears for a moment, but there is meaning and substance that we can apply to our life and become foundational for our life. Jesus said, I am the truth. Not, I've come to show you the truth. I've come to be your truth. He doesn't come and ask for behavioral modification or change in the way we speak. He says, I want to be your anchor of truth. Steve Kelly, who is one of our oversights here at Life, if I have the story right, I may have some of the details wrong, but the overall story is correct. Steve Kelly's father was training to be a monk, because he wanted to discover a life of peace, and he had some stuff in his world that he couldn't deal with on his own, and he thought the only way I can fix it is to lock myself in a monastery and become a monk. So he was years into his training of becoming a monk, and they sent them out into the streets to witness, and he was witnessing to a Jesus follower, and the reverse witnessing happened, because the Jesus follower was talking to the monk about the reality that Jesus can be your truth. And that day, Steve Kelly's father, who was a monk, became a Christian, walked away from the monastery and said something along the lines of, I don't need a monastery to discover the truth. I need the person of Jesus to anchor this, who my truth is. You know, the reason we give up on truth is because someone gave us something and broke our trust. And therefore, what they said to be true can't be trusted. Listen, Jesus doesn't say true things. He is truth. He will never break himself. He is truth. You can trust the person of Jesus. He is the very essence of truth. And when we don't find the truth, we will substitute it for a truth. And there's so many people in our world today whose truth is success, whose truth is financial stability, whose truth is the right relationship, whose truth is influence, whose truth is a company, and they put everything in that. But can I tell you, nothing will hold true, and nothing will stay firm, and nothing will deliver long term like the person of truth, and his name is Jesus. Why Jesus? Because he is the truth that my soul has been searching for. So Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. There's a big difference between a life and an existence. There's a big difference between living and just going through the motions. And I believe it breaks the Father heart of God when he looks down at his kids, which is all of humanity, and he sees so many not living life, but just existing, trying to get through. I am the life means Jesus didn't come to change our mind or our behavior. He came to change our existence, to live with fulfillment and purpose. I don't have to know you intimately, and I don't have to know you well to know when you feel most fully alive. Because when you feel the most fully alive will, I guarantee, be the same when I feel the most fully alive. It's not when I've had my biggest win. It's not when my bank account is the healthiest. It's not when I finally achieve a success or a goal that I've been going after. It's when I discover that I am fully loved right where I am and right where I'm at. That's when you feel fully alive. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I want to meet you right where you're at and show you the way forward. I can't tell you how many stories over the years. There would be hundreds of them in this room, of testimonies of people who thought they were the most unlovable people on the planet, but they discovered a Savior who met them right where they're at, accepted them, warts and all, but then walked into the life that God has for them. One of the most fulfilling things in my life is watching each three of my kids now have a moment where they discover that the one who created them fully loves them. That the one who created them wants relationship with them. That the one who created them doesn't turn his back on them because they don't measure up, but by his grace and his mercy wants to meet them right where they're at and walk into the future that he has for them. Why Jesus? Why did he say, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life? He's saying, I am what your soul has been searching for. I am what your soul has been longing for. And no one comes to the Father but through me. Not you've got to walk through me to get to the Father. It's God wants to bring himself through me to you. I'm going to meet you where you're at and bring God to you. Not you walk to me, I'll meet you there. So why Jesus? Because he is the way. I don't know what you're facing, but he is the way. I don't know if you feel stuck, he is the way. I don't know if you feel confused, he is the way. Why Jesus? Because he is the truth. You may have been hurt, you may have been let down, someone may have promised you something and not delivered. You may feel like you're living a life that's meaningless, not meaningful. Listen, with Jesus, he is the truth. He is substance. He is meaning. And friend, he is the life.